Howdy, welcome in. Let me adjust this real quick. A little high for my liking, but that's all right. Maybe give you little guys a little booby action. But yeah, welcome in, man. Um, week one of the playoffs down. Four unfortunate souls have been sent to the shadow realm. Four winners move on to the semifinals. Hard to believe that we're here already. Um, really impressive. Some of the runs we've seen this year, and all in all, the league's been very, very competitive, and we kind of see these teams that we've kind of talked about week in, week out, kind of putting up these big gaudy numbers, getting the job done every week. Really putting a hurting on a lot of teams. So this week was interesting. It seemed like a lot of low scoring games, but that's the way it goes. And you play who you play. What happens on the field, what happens. And a little bit of luck involved, a little bit of skill. And with that being said, let's get into it. So first of all, my game here against Josh. I didn't really have much of a fighter, a puncher's chance. I did there for a minute, and then Terry McLaurin and CD Lamb decided they were going to take care of business like they have been, you know, by their household names. So obviously, Herbert going down for me, Pacheco being out, Olave being out. Writing was on the wall. Obviously, pretty piss poor performance, 75 points. Might be my season low on the year, but nonetheless. Obviously, the glaring thing there is if I started Joshua Palmer. Do I sneak in? Maybe it gets a lot closer, more interesting. But yeah, Josh, you know, this feels like Josh's year, I will say. That he's put up the most points this year, and then he didn't. I mean, he's very vulnerable this game. There are plenty of playoff teams that one, two, three, four, five out of the eight that would have beaten him this week. So, rather fortunate that he played me. There were, Mike also had a rough week, but we'll get into that a little bit. So yeah, a little bit fortunate, but he earned that one spot. Deserved to play one of the lower seeded teams, and that's why you get the one seed, and that's why it's important. So, 1 point out of the Cowboys defense, yeah, that's an anomaly. But Eckler, huge question mark. So, we'll see moving forward. He's still got this rotating wheel at tight end. We'll see what he does for this week. But moving on to the next one here, the Milkman versus Risky Dipper. Great season, Mike. I know you had talked about wishing you did receive the one seed if we went off head to head because you beat everybody. And I would have beat you last week. So not that that's a dig on you or anything like that. Just you play who you play and you put up what you put up, and it is what it is. But yeah, man. I mean, not much really you can do here. Just a bunch of honored performances by guys that have been performing all year, even with Rodgers being out. Garrett Wilson's been very serviceable. Your boy Mostert continued to dominate. Bijan negative points. Saquon nothing. Mahomes continues to low ball here. So yeah, just a whole lot of nothing from me, and it kind of stinks because you were 9-5, really strong year, and 118 is not the craziest score to get put up against you, but just wasn't your week, and was a poor week of scoring. So, but good season, and it's something to build off of for sure. And looking at Zach here, I know he's kicking himself for not for starting Fields, I think, but obviously it didn't matter that much. Uh, awesome to win without Tyreek. Should be back this week. Stroud looking like he's going to be out, so we'll assume that the quarterback situation is going to probably stay the same. I can't imagine Sam Howell's going to find his way in. I think the lineup's going to pretty much stay the same, and really strong team as long as we had Tyreek Hill in there, and really nice start with Zamir White. I know he and I were chatting about that as well, going back and forth, but he ended up pulling the trigger. Obviously, it worked out, and on to the next weekend of the semifinals. So good for you. Another really good game. Kind of, just really, really low scoring. It's kind of everyone seems to kind of have been these dog fights. And I know all these games were close, and Ed was in it for most of the game. But yeah, I know he was up beating himself up for not starting Purdy, and obviously McBride. He was thinking about putting in the flex over Brees, which definitely changes the game. those two decisions are made. But that's really hard because Brees Hall's been pretty solid all year, and Laporte has been great at tight end, and Lamar's been really he's been a little bit swingy like he typically is as far as fantasy production goes, and yeah, but yeah, it's tough when the Tyreek Hill injury definitely was the negative effect of this one because Waddle popped off, and Isaiah Likely's been fantastic in the absence of Mark Andrews, so haven't really missed a beat there for Nick's sake. And then Ty Chandler, fantastic pickup by Nick. Kind of the same thing. Dak had a rough week, obviously, but Dak definitely helped win a lot of games. So yeah, it's just one of those things where 120 is still a really solid number, and you had Pollard and Henry have really down weeks this week. So see how Nick bounces back. Really strong team, has been all year. Ran into a little bit of a rough patch there, getting healthy at the right time, gets the job done here, puts up the second most points this week, and asserts himself into the next week's standing. So final game here, Wuhan versus Coleman. Tyler, pretty, I mean, still a strong team, just super, super swingy this year with a lot of these guys. Rashi Rice seems like probably the guy that's going to be the keeper, right? He scores a touchdown every week. Yeah, just again, kind of similar to Mike. Obviously, put up a lot more points than Mike or myself did, but just guys kind of underperforming for what they're expected to do. Chase goes down in injury. Yeah, just kind of tough, and didn't end up on the wrong end of it. And there's also the turn of he could have scored 135 and put up the second most points, and ran into a buzzsaw that is the Wuhan Weezer. Talk about it every week. That running back to tight end one is a gauntlet. Good luck. And Miami defense has been hotter than shit the last 2 weeks. So as far as fantasy points go. So yeah, really, really strong performance here. This team's been rocking and rolling. I think there's 5 straight wins now. Just really great. Getting enough out of Levis to be serviceable and finding a lot of ways to score and win. McCaffrey's obviously been a juggernaut. We'll see how we go against the Ravens. I think they still have a very productive day. Odell with a huge disappointment in the flex there, but didn't really matter. We'll see what he does in the flex this time. I think T. Higgins probably slides in because of the Chase injury. So team only gets better. Seems like a collision course here is loading. So look at the playoff bracket here, and let's just take a look at something real quick. Yep, making sure I'm doing the right thing. Cool. So yeah, there it is. Updated standings. We got the Milkman versus Rock Boys. And then we got Team Bucher versus Wuhan Weezer. So some really exciting firepower games. Then we have the consolation bracket down here. Doesn't really matter. Once you're out of the playoffs or once you're done, your trade or your draft position is set, and it's based off of your points for that prior week. So the draft order is as follows so far. George with the 1, Nate with the 2, Ryan with the 3. The new league member replacing Procell is number 4. Mike gets the 5. I get the 6. Ed gets the 7, and Tyler gets the 8. So we'll decide these last 4 here with how these last couple games go. All eyes on the prize here. So we'll dig into these matchups here. So we have Milkman versus Rock Boys. I've not done some advanced scouting. Looks a lot better for Zach here. Last time this week when we did this, half of his roster was questionable, and quarter of them didn't play. So good job getting the win here. Yeah, I mean this team looks really ready and set to go. Jacksonville's defense, they held the Ravens in check pretty well. We'll have to see how that Tampa offensive line holds up because those edge rushers are serious for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Looks like Tyreek's going to play. I expect Tyreek things. Jerome Ford against Houston should be a lot better than last week. If I know he didn't do too well. Devin Singletary, not my favorite matchup in the world, but with Jacobs coming back, I think. What do I even see? Josh, am I missing it? Oh, we had Jacobs on this team. We do. Okay, so he's probably going to slot Josh Jacobs in here for Devin Singletary, if I had to guess. But yeah, so really, really strong here. Rock Boys, a little bit of a shift. Austin Eckler to the flex. Maybe we'll wake up call for the guy. Rashid Shaheed in over Terry McLaurin. Rough matchup against the Jets, so I get that. Marquise Brown against Chicago is interesting if he does suit up. And we have Taysom Hill back in the tight end spot. So, man, that Cowboys Miami game is going to be really, really fun to watch on Christmas Eve. I'm looking forward to that one. Looking at here, yeah, that Chargers team's dead. So Josh Allen definitely has a huge day. I think that's his most significant advantage here, leaning towards Josh, is these running backs and quarterback. And then, obviously Milkman excels in the wide receiver room. So I think they get a little bit of cancellation here. The question becomes, do I believe in Taysom Hill? Do I believe in Jake Ferguson? I actually think both play well. So I think they both might find the end zone. They both put up some nice points. So Bills against Chargers offense. Obviously, we saw what the Raiders defense did last week, and Commanders against the Jets. I think that's a fair play. That defense is very shitty, for lack of a better word, but playing the Jets offense, who is even shittier. So this is going to be a really close game. I think this projection is, as far as the closeness, is very spot on. I think the points are going to be higher. I think there's a lot of explosive plays on these teams. That being said, I think I'm going to have to lean with Milkman here in the fact that I think Tyreek Hill has a monster day. And I just kind of think Hill and Evans and Cooper with Flacco throwing the ball a little too much, I think, to handle. And I don't trust Rashid Shaheed enough in that starting spot to be like, oh yeah, this is going to be great. So yeah, it's interesting. But yeah, Josh, I think it's on the wrong end here, and Milkman moves on to claim the belt here, or have an opportunity to, I should say. So the other game here, man, I wish they would fix that shit at some point, but Team Bucher versus Wuhan. So before I get into that, sponsored by Coke this week. Feeling a little bit down. You can probably hear it in my voice. So the need the extra sugar and some of the caffeine to kind of get me going. And Coke delivers. So have a Coke. Save the polar bears and Merry Christmas. So here we go. Team Bucher versus Wuhan. Not, I don't think, a single piece move for Nick, which I think is probably fair. And looking at Wuhan here, I don't think a single. Oh, let's see, we have Higgins in the flex, so probably a right prediction there. Looks like Wuhan's getting three. We can see how these two matchups went. Last time Wuhan had monster weeks, and that's really what you run into with this team and the way they're cooking right now. It's interesting because, as a Ravens fan, it's hard for me to look at this and say, oh, we're going to shut down Debo and McCaffrey, but I don't know if we are. I don't know if it's doable. That offense is just on a different level. I think Debo might be slightly stifled because we generally don't blow coverages too often, but I think McCaffrey's going to eat. I heard a stat today that the Ravens are the 28th worst team on pitch play runs, and McCaffrey gets a ton of them and is the best at it. So I expect McCaffrey to have a rather large day, probably a couple touchdowns, getting the ball in all sorts of ways. Debo may be a little bit more limited, but we can live with that. Chuba against Green Bay, that defense does not play defense. So yeah, Hawkinson against Detroit, revenge game there. That's interesting. Yeah, just a lot of really cool matchups, and obviously with Chase probably being out, Pitt or T Higgins there looks really good. Looking at Nick, uh, I think that Cowboys Miami game is going to be really, really exciting. So a lot of balls in the air, which will be exciting. He's going to need Pollard to have a good day, which I know has been rather tough to say for most of the fantasy season. As an owner of him in another league, I'm very frustrated with Tony Pollard. I'm sure Nick feels the same way. Derrick Henry, you never know. I don't think it really matters who the matchups is. I think it just matters on what he's putting out there. And if it's a lower scoring game, if Drew Lock's in there, I could see Henry having a big impact. But if Gino's in there, they're throwing the ball around. I could see it kind of going around. Tyreek's back probably, so Waddle's gonna be less effective. DJ Morgan's Arizona, love that. You guys have a really nice day. Likely against San Fran. I don't know exactly how well. Not sure exactly how San Fran's defense is against tight ends, but I'd imagine that Trey McBride had a pretty good game, so he's also a really nice player. So likely, I think, can have some success. I don't, maybe he finds the end zone, but we shall see. I'm sure after the success that he's had last couple of weeks, I'm sure he might be keyed a little bit more by that San Fran defense. I think that San Fran's more susceptible outside, honestly. So I'd expect guys like Flowers or Odell or those kinds of guys to have a little bit more success than likely, but we'll see. Kenneth Walker should have a good game against Tennessee. Yeah, Browns defense looks like against Case Keenum should be a fun one. So yeah, I want to root for Nick here. As a good buddy of mine and constant supporter of the pod and of the league. It really is a guy that I want to win, but fortunately, I think I'm gonna have to leave Wuhan here, who's you know pretty good guy himself. His team's really hot right now, looking good, feeling good. Uh, yeah, so that's my pick, Wuhan, to get the win here. Again, I feel like Wuhan's projection may be, it could be in the right ballpark here, but I could see this game getting 10 to 15 points more than this prediction for both sides, but I'm going to take Wuhan here. And yeah, so that means we're going to have a crash course championship week of the Milkman versus Wuhan. So either one would be a first time winner of the league. That would be fantastic. Actually, any of these guys would be first time winners that are remaining. So really cool to see people coming in having success. So and it's Nick and Josh were actually our expansion 212 teams. So cool to see them have some instant success. Unfortunately, I have them both on the losing end of everything here. But yeah, that's really it. That's been really fun doing the pod. As I say this, I think a lot too. Really enjoy this. I know a lot of people enjoy it as well. Probably not as many eyes on it this time of year just because of people being out of it, not really interested in it. But for those who are interested, I'm happy to put one out for you. So yeah, good luck to everyone this weekend, and may the best teams win. Hopefully, we get some really competitive matchups, and it's really fun to watch over this Christmas weekend. So if I do not see you this weekend, have a Merry Christmas or Happy Holiday, whatever religious or sacrificial holiday you celebrate. You know, shout out to the Krampus people out there. They're at but yeah, so that's really about it. Enjoy the rest of your day. Happy holidays and have a great weekend. Good luck. See you.